So here's a story that should infuriate you, if you know about the Koch brothers at least, and if you don't, you're about to learn. So Koch-backed group vows to spend up to $400 million on midterms to help Republicans keep Hill majorities. This is from Fox News. Even at a gathering of conservatives in the California desert, there was no denying among the attendees the successes of the Democratic candidates in recent elections and their likelihood of even more victories in the November races. Still, the well-heeled donors at Freedom Partners event committed to spending as much as $400 million in support of the candidates and free market policies backed by the influential group. So, quote, I'm delighted the network is going to be able to tell us that story, Senate Majority Whip John Cornyn, Republican out of Texas, said Saturday night, because we're going to have to continue to combat misinformation from the naysayers and the people who want it to fail. So, the naysayers would be people who actually read the CBO score and actually paid attention to the provisions in the tax bill. The Koch spent $20 million on a propaganda campaign before the bill was even passed to try to win over Americans on their side. And now they're spending another $20 million to further their propaganda campaign in convincing people that this tax bill is going to be good for them. And that it's a good thing, not a bad thing. That's what the naysayers are saying, because even though the individual tax cuts may disappear after 10 years, even though the corporate ones don't, and even the tax cuts that were given to the middle class and lower were like nominal, if that even, it's going to cost, if you make like less than $75,000 a year, your taxes are going up in a few years, not down. But that's just, liberal propaganda. So that commitment to selling the law, $20 million alone, will be similar to efforts last year by the AFP to tout hallmark tax legislation in town halls and through advertising and phone banks, like I just said. So beyond the tax bill, and political agenda priorities highlighted at the event included reforms at veterans hospitals, touting President Trump's judicial appointments, and undoing Obama-era regulations. That's pretty much what the Trump administration has been doing, repealing anything with Obama's name on it, anything, even if it's the Clean Air Act or the Clean Water Act, because who needs that shit? Now, they're also involved in the Freedom Partners of America. Beyond politics, the Freedom Partners event also served as the semi-annual status report on the group's public policy efforts, including reforms in education, criminal justice, and poverty. Really quick, in education, the Koch brothers want to completely get rid of the government's influence. They want a state voucher program. In criminal justice, they want private prisons, so lock up more people for non-violent crimes like drug possession and poverty. You think the Kochs give two shits about poverty? No, they don't. They're the ones who propagate this whole idea of hard work makes you a real American, and if you don't pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you're just not trying hard enough. And it's not my job to pay for your health care and your lazy ass and your welfare and your food stamps because you're too dumb and poor to afford it yourself. That's their whole philosophy. Well, I can actually tell you his whole philosophy because I have it right here. So Charles Koch ran for the Libertarian Party in 1980, and this is the party platform he ran on, aka the playbook the Kochs are trying to implement. So, if it was in Koch's perfect world, they would repeal federal campaign finance laws, so let more money into politics, because that's not the problem at all in our system right now, and abolition of the Federal Election Commission, abolish Medicare and Medicaid, oppose compulsory insurance and tax-supported plans to provide health care services, including those which finance abortion services, deregulate the medical insurance industry, repeal Social Security, making it voluntary. Abolish the USPS, the United States Postal Service. It's one of the best government services we have. Abolish all personal and corporate income taxes. Abolish the minimum wage. End government-run schools and colleges and call for banning the ownership, operation, regulation, and subsidies that support them. Abolish the EPA. Well, we're halfway there with Scott Pruitt. Abolish the Department of Energy. Halfway there with Rick Perry. Abolish the Department of Transportation. Return railways to private ownership. Abolish the Federal Aviation Administration. Remember when Trump was just touting how we had like no accidents because of the FAA, and it was like their safest year on record? Yeah, let's just scrap that thing. We don't need people to be safe when they're in airplanes. And all subsidies for childbearing built into present laws, including all welfare plans and the provisions of tax-supported services for children. Child's health care insurance program, gone. Fuck CHIP. Fuck sick kids. We don't need to help sick kids. They should have pulled themselves up by their self-tying shoe straps. You know, the ones that you pull out of your shoes and they're like squiggly so you don't have to tie them. Those are pretty cool. Whatever happened to them? Do they still make those? Somebody send me a pair. I want some. All government welfare programs must end. Fuck poor people. Privatized inland waterways. So let's sell the Mississippi River to the highest bidder. What? I mean, we're already selling our national monuments like Bears Ears and Grand Escalante Staircase. Bears Ears was one of them was cut by 85%. The other was cut in half. And now we're selling the mineral mining rights to private corporations. So, you know, tens of thousands of Indian sites are going to be at risk of, you know, being demolished. Public recreation areas are gone. No, because public land is best used towards private industry. They would also like to repeal the Occupational Safety and Health Act because, you know, suing companies and, you know, making sure employees are safe and don't die is a nominal thing when it in the broader scope of keeping people safe, I guess. And abolish the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Because, you know, if there's lead in your kids' paint, they're just going to be a little slow for the rest of their lives. But that's not their concern, is it? And that's just a few things that I wrote down from their 1980, Charles Koch's 1980 libertarian platform. So, if you think this is a good idea, vote for Trump in 2020. And if you don't vote for Trump. Don't ever vote for another Republican. Don't ever vote for another corporate Democrat. Vote for people who actually run on policy. That crazy idea, people who actually have answers and ways to fix the things we need fixing. Let's not just dismantle everything because things aren't going great. And then by implementing these heads of the agencies like Rick Perry, Scott Pruitt, yada, yada, Alex Azar, to dismantle them from within, you're making it harder for the rest of Americans, for the rest of the people who don't own all of the wealth in America. I did an Oxfam report on the wealth gap in America. The top 3 richest Americans made more money last year than the bottom half. 68 Americans own more wealth than the bottom half of the world. The world! And the Koch brothers, their greedy asses, only want to push for deregulation of the coal industry, fossil fuel industry, anything that they make, because they make all of their money on natural gas and oil. All of it. So, obviously, with all of the EPA regulations that they're going to put a thorn in their paw, all of the Clean Water and Clean Air Acts, that's going to piss off the Kochs because that messes with their bottom line. And they don't like it when you mess with their money. So, let's abolish the Kochs, not the FDA, not the Consumer Production or Product Safety Commission, not the EPA. Let's abolish the Koch brothers.